Welcome, everyone. This is Greg Rock, and I'd like to introduce our first webcast to be hosted on Digital Business Institute called The Future of Digital Business. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have on this webcast than Jim Sinur. He's a familiar name to many of the folks that have followed our BPM community throughout the years. Jim has a tremendous amount of industry experience. A lot of folks know him from his work as a research VP at Gartner, and prior to that, his work at American Express. And Jim's been very, very active in the digital business world since the early days. And so as we now make a commitment to start a new community to support digital business practitioners and folks that are in their digital transformation efforts, we want to invite Jim down to share some of his insights that he sees, things that have occurred over the years and things that are current observations at one of his new ventures at Aragon Research. Jim also has a couple other undertakings we're going to review during this webcast. He also has authored his first book, and also he is an artist part-time in his new schedule of life. And so Jim, we're thrilled to have you on. This first webcast is going to help folks to understand the current state of digital business, and then where we see things going in the foreseeable future, and we appreciate you extending your expertise there. When we first set out to launch this community, we've been working over the winter. It also forced us to take a look at our other two websites, bpminstitute.org and businessarchitectureinstitute.org. And we're currently undertaking a rebranding of all three of our websites. This is a sneak preview of what Digital Business Institute will look like probably come Q3 of this year. The website is currently live, and so we have folks that are participating on there today, and this webcast is part of our launch efforts for the year. Digital Business Institute is our newest community. It basically joins a network of communities that focuses on other related complementary disciplines, business process management and business architecture. We were very thrilled to celebrate our 20th anniversary last year for our parent company, Brainstorm Group, Inc. And over the years, folks have basically come to us now as an authority in education, training, and certification across these disciplines that are helping to transform their organizations. So we're very excited about the future of digital business and the road that people are on, and we're committed to trying to provide practical advice for helping organizations to get there and for individuals to build those skills. With that, Jim, I'd like to turn things over to you and look for your insights on what people should be thinking about as far as digital business today and in the near future.
Great, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the opportunity and the kind words. And I didn't pay him this time. So. I'm going to talk about the future of digital business as an intro to the book. The book was the base of a lot of the thinking here. And I've taken it a bit further in this presentation. So what I'd like to talk about is how digital is going to change not only strategy but operations. I used to race cars. Now my wife doesn't trust me in them. And when we put together a checklist before we raced at a road race course, we came up over time with this document that you see here. It doesn't matter whether you can read it or not, but we made sure the car and the driver was ready. And we really didn't debrief on how the race went until the end. Today, digital racing is real-time in-flight adjustments. There's sensors all over the driver. There's sensors over the car. There's dynamic changes that can be made in the engine and the suspension. And digital racing is an example of a way forward that's much different than what was done in the past. And I think you're going to see that with our processes, our applications, our systems, and our interfaces with our clients. So there's a lot of shift that's going on here. We're saying that 80% of our clients are progressing through their journey. Now, where they are in the journey is quite different. And 20% are doing nothing. So there's basically an 80-20 here. 20% are just saying, you know, I'm going to bet I'm not going to be affected by it. 80% are on the journey. So what are those guys doing? Well, 20% are completing their digital journey plans. Now, you know, architects would say that you can complete a plan and stick with it. You know, I don't quite agree with that. This is one of these deals where you're going to have to change. So I view digital as like trying to take Mount Everest. You know, you have different climbing methods for each base camp. There might be 6 base camps to the top of Everest. And in some cases you're doing, you know, just rock scrambling. In other cases you're doing ice climbing. So plans will change as you go along, but the architecture is that you're going to have 6 different kinds of climbing. 60% are making progress in their digital journey, but the question is what kind of progress? And 100% of the clients think they're doing the right thing. Now the problem with that is that if you take a look at some of the statistics of small startup companies, the failure rate's really high. And here's a statistic on startups failures. Well, it's actually happening to the big companies. Big companies are shrinking, and to me, that's a failure if I'm a stockholder. So we have to be careful as we shift through this digital journey. And we're kind of learning as we're going, just like the climbers do. If they're not adept at climbing, they at least are learning about the terrain. So what are the 3 digital destinations? And these can be taken not necessarily in sequence, but in parallel. And in fact, better business results and efficiency of operations can be a driver for paying for the others. One is new business opportunities, new business models, new services. There is a whole class of people that say, if you're not changing your business model, you're going to lose. And they're saying, bet big, bet a lot, and you have to do it. Well, if you're an industry under duress, I think that's probably true. But if your industry is not under duress yet, you do have some time. So, you know, you don't have to, you know, race to the new business model. In other words, get to the top of Everest right away. We're seeing that customer loyalty, both journey maps that are planned maps or reality maps that say, let's watch what the customer is doing, and customization by customer type and individual customer is a hot area. The third area is one that we've been doing for a long time. We just have better tools now, is operational efficiency and effectiveness. And that's going to happen as long as I live. Of course, I am getting near the end here. I better be careful with that quote. So you take a look at this chart. There's a different balance being made. If you take a look at the lower right, this is where our systems have been. It's all about optimal operational outcomes and value to the organization. Very little is cared about the customer other than we don't want to lose them. People are measured on how quick they can get rid of calls. They're measured on, you know, how can we get the customer to basically key for us, transverse our complicated organization. And really, in today's world, there's no need for that. Some companies will have to jump to that upper left, which is high value to the customer and strategic advantage, particularly if their business model's under duress. Most organizations are going to hit for that sweet spot between value to the customer and value to the organization, strategy and operations. And this presentation is based on the fact that most people want this sweet spot. Is it going to be easy to hit it dead center? I don't think so, but we've got a lot to learn over the next decade or so on how to strike that and how quickly it's going to shift. So you know, this is a moving target in that tomorrow's sweet spot might be the traditional app that you're trying to walk away from. So it's going to be a constant battle to stay up. On that first destination, we think creating constituent journey maps is absolutely important. This means you have to measure and model where your customer is at and what do they feel during this. How does it engage you? The idea of loyalty has gone away. I'm not loyal to the car company my father bought from. I'm loyal to who can give me the best deal and the best product right now for my needs right now in my life cycle. And I don't want somebody to sell and run. I want them to service me. So we're going to see that there's a lot of mind-machined inputs that are coming off of logs and behavior and click streams. And then there's human inputs, which are, you know, surveys and customer focus groups and experts. This is an absolutely crucial set of disciplines for organizations to build on. We're all, you know, since I came out of the process world most recently, even though I did start in kind of the data world, we're seeing a number of process styles taking off. You know, if you have simple and standard, you've got a structured process, something maybe as little as a lightweight workflow. And that whole area is still burgeoning. It's very hot. And then once, you know, things become more complex and you're trying to differentiate yourself and the conditions becoming more emergent, you start moving into case. And then you start using these little structured pieces as process snippets and you're pulling them together at the right time. It's a long-running effect. And then eventually there will be IoT agent-oriented, where AI is running the process as it emerges. View it as somewhat of an unfolding flower. So we're going to have multiple process types, and a lot of people have bet the farm on one thing versus the other, and the answer is you're going to have it all. Digital also multiplies the number of resources to manage, and in this world, we want to make them all smarter. At the bottom, we've got our drones, our controllers, our sensors, our bots and robots, whether they're physical or software, that we want to make smarter over time. And at the top, we have all of the people that we're dealing with that we have to work with. It's our knowledge workers, our managers, our workers. And, of course, we've got to include our partners and our customers in this as well. And then we have our technology kind of sticks these things together like glue, and that's our data, API, process components, you know, microservices and cognitive analytic capabilities, which are either cogs or analytics. Digital is also going to change the way we visualize things. You're seeing a huge influx on AI to study the data, because AI can study big data a lot faster than humans can, and we're going to see a lot of overlays. Timelines will become more important, particularly when you're looking at processes. You're going to use benchmarks. There'll be much more dynamic prioritization, life cycles, heat maps, statistics, and you're not going to be looking at one view at a time. You're going to be looking at multiple overlays. Also, digital is going to make for smarter everything. I can't wait for the day that I go out socially and I have an earpiece whispering to me how to behave socially so I don't get in trouble with my wife later on at night when she says, you know, when you said that at the party, that was not right. So someday I'll have an AI earpiece telling me how to behave. I don't know if that'll do any good, but we'll try. So the notion of machine learning, deep learning, cognitive, dynamic simulation and animation, delta comparisons, all of this stuff will be at our fingertips. And AI can search through millions and millions of emerging knowledge bases and suggest to you a behavior. So if you believe in the sense, decide, and act, AI is going to be involved with all of those. So we've kind of broken down what we think the common base camps are. Depending upon which side of this mountain you're trying to climb, there's a different set of base camps. And your organization, depending on the culture, the experience, the successes and the failures, some of these will appeal more to you than others. One is the content focused, where, hey, we need to get rid of paper, we need to get rid of signatures, we need to automate content. That's a popular mini journey. There are operational benefits that allow you to live another day to do more digital. Collaboration focused, where people are collaborating on a problem or a set of problems. You see a lot of this in case management. We also see it in real time when you're trying to infuse knowledge to a particular problem. Instead of having a dedicated resource, you may dynamically collaborate on a particular problem set or a set of business outcomes or customer outcomes. Process focus is another popular one. And by the way, all of these save money, where the process tries to get to a certain set of outcomes and has some pre-built paths and some emerging paths to get results. Another popular one that we're starting to see emerge is the persona or workbench approach or workplace approach, where you might see doctors going around and doing rounds, getting dynamic feedback from tests, real-time feedback from monitoring the patients, nurses and patients' comments on a little pad that they're looking to, and they can take actions like, oh, do another test, surprise, surprise, prescribe another drug, surprise, surprise. Or maybe even have some cogs tell them, hey, look, and we've seen this in other kinds of patients with this blood type, you may want to ask some other questions. Here's a suggested, regime to deal with what this patient has. Customer interaction focus. Basically, you're saying, look, we want more customers, and the ones that we want them for life, and so we're going to treat them better. We're going to give them a better experience, not just journeys, but we may put some, smarter digital assistants. I have Alexa at home. It seems rather, if I ask it the right question the right way, I get what I want, but someday we'll have smarter digital assistants at the front end helping. There are analytic-focused journeys that say, hey, look, I want to look at, a customer journey or a process in a timeline. I want to apply some analytics and animation to this to see what's going on. Can I take alternative approaches? The AI focus, which says, look, I'm going to add some machine learning to some of the forms that are coming in so I can auto-underwrite more of the cases, or I can potentially suggest to other workers what we might have here. I've done a pre-diagnosis. I've put together a potential contract. And you look at it and approve it. Then agile integration focus. We've got these islands of information, maybe even big data pools or data that comes from different contexts, different worlds that need to be brought together dynamically, and it may be dynamically bringing together the IoT data from a number of different sources. There's no real common standard for machines to interact. We see some gathering around the Nest standard, but not enough. And so this agile integration, fast data approach, and deep data and dark data, all important. And people have made a lot of headway by focusing on some of this. Low code focus. This is a hot area. we just have a huge, huge backlog. Business people want things. They want to do low code and model driven. You want to do low code and sometimes model driven, maybe drop down driven. And so the low code focused journey is hot. And then there's business function focused, where you can take a standard set of function, put a decent front end on it, maybe combining it with another AI journey, or cobbling together and composing and combining it with low code. So the key to the 10th part is there's reusable services at the lowest level, APIs at the lowest level. At the highest level, they're aggregate models and aggregate functionality that can be leveraged, smart process apps. And I believe intelligence is the new currency for digital, so you're going to see more cogs available as well that can be leveraged. Now, these mini journeys can be used in combination, but you're more apt to be successful if you pre-architect the ones you want to select and work together. This is a rather busy chart, and we're just going to concentrate on the core, but this talks about a digital business platform. And we're seeing that the world is headed this way, and there are digital business platforms out there. We've rated them, just like we've rated customer journey maps, just like we've rated content management tools. So we have ways of rating these, but these tool collections are starting to come together. And I'm going to go clockwise around this. And in the center of this is emerging digital technologies, things like blockchain, things like not so much machine learning, deep learning, but cognitive computing, which is a different animal. So the idea of processes and cases and work environments, this is where workers have profiles. This is where you're going to see the notion of workbenches. So this is where the work's done, either by your employees or by customers. Cognition and calculations is all about analytics and cognitive that may boost the case, may boost the data. This is the supercharger for the digital age. Then there's data and systems integration. This is where we have deep data. This is where we have our low-code development. This is where, this is kind of like the engine room for the DDP. Then there's the notion of machine sensors and patterns. This is the whole IoT chunk. And people have said, IOE, Internet of Everything. Well, the Internet of Everything is the digital business platform. That's the technical name for it. And then there's business applications that we talked about. So these 5 pieces are coming together. Organizations are picking a cornerstone vendor or set of vendors to build on. Now, around this digital business platform are a number of what I call digital on-ramps. These are these smaller journeys where you can put a flag in and say, well, look, I did this. I'm partially successful in digital. And you can see a number of things on here, and we've talked about some of it. So this is a key chart going forward, and the digital business platform is crucial. Now, you can make a lot of progress without having one of these, but we think you'll end up there. So that's kind of a preamble to the book overview. The tagline is innovate or die. And you're going to need something like a digital business platform. You're certainly going to need digital on-ramps and mini journeys to continue. I had a co-author named Peter Fingar, who runs MK Press, and I've dealt with Peter for a number of years and have written a number of smaller pieces with him. And this is my second book with him. The first one I did was on the next wave of BPM, which really I kind of got out over my skis on that one because we still haven't reached some of the things that I talk about in that book. Let's talk about the authors. The book's only as good as the authors. You can read here like I can, but Peter has been involved with IT longer than I have, and I've got a half a century of IT under my belt. I did start with it as a teenager, so if you're viewing an old crotchety guy with a cane, not yet. And neither is Peter, by the way. And he's always been kind of on the leading edge, bleeding edge. I also worked for companies that had a lot of money. They were cash cows. They could work on some of these things early. So some of the things I'm talking about I've actually implemented. A persona-based workbench at Northwestern Mutual, used AI at Northwestern Mutual, used AI at American Express, used low-code model-driven at American Express. So after I had that, I had kind of a quick head start on a number of companies and went to Gartner and spent a lot of years covering things like BPM rules, modeling, low-code development, RPA before it became RPA. So I'm an active blogger, and you can get a lot of good information off of my blog. Peter Finger and I are both involved with Cognitive World, which is a website on how to use AI. And I thought I'd throw a little piece of art in there just to tease you. I also have some art. My website right now is under reconstruction, but soon I'll unveil some new art, and you'll hear more about that. Why do you write a book? Well, the first time I wrote a book, to be honest, it was on my bucket list. So I wrote something that I thought was going to be very compelling, and it was to a smaller group of architects. This one is much more appealing to a lot of people. The idea here was to come up with a book that somebody could read on a 3-hour plane ride and say, okay, I want to look more into this, that, and the other. I've got a good definition. I got a good idea of how digital transformation hangs together. It's not a project management issue. It's a major shift in attitude, strategy, tactic, and operations. And the book goes into significant detail, and it's at the base of the presentation that I just gave. So here's, what do other people say about it? If you recognize some names on here, like Vint Cerf, who invented the internet, Tom Davenport, who's fantastic, Nathaniel Palmer, who's also involved with BPM. There's some key names, and they liked it. That's the bottom line. So the goal of the book is, and in the way it's structured, it has 3 major sections: why organizations need to think, how to act, and 3 approaches to transformation, which talks about the customer interaction, new process, new models, and operational capabilities. We believe in the outside-in focus, and it talks about some best practices and, interestingly enough, case studies. If you're looking for case studies on digital, it's really tough. You got to go to a lot of conferences to get them, and trying to dig them out is not easy. So here's an abbreviated table of contents. I'm a rebel, so the first thing I started out with is a rebel's question: why do it? What's the risk? What does it mean? And it talks about 3 approaches, and then learn by example. So it's highly abbreviated table of contents here, but you get the idea of what's involved. So it's digital transformation, a brief guide for game changers. The whole game changers series is kind of like the dummy series, except we don't call people dummies. We don't like that idea, and it's much more condensed. And you'll see the other book that I wrote, and you'll see another great book by Peter Finger on cognitive computing. So here's my blog. Here's where you can find the book, as well as on Amazon. And typically on Amazon it's pretty cheap for the digital version of it. That was the idea. So I've been talking for quite a long time here. I suspect people might have some questions.
Right, Jim. Well, listen, I appreciate giving folks a heads up of what's in the book. I just want to mention that we'll have a link on the website where you logged in to register and attend this webcast. That'll take you out to a link on Amazon. As Jim mentioned, the book is very affordable and something that we would recommend to our members, something you can easily digest on a flight. The digital version is quite affordable, under $20. And so if you've got some executives and folks that you're trying to still spread religion about digital business and digital transformation, buy a copy and share a copy with them, and use that as a tool. It's very, very affordable. So, Jim, before we let you go and before I dive into some of the information I wanted to share with folks about the Digital Business Institute and our new Digital Business Certificate Program, I wanted to bounce a couple things off you. There's a tremendous amount of hype out there about all the different parts of digital business, and some folks looking at it like it's an add water proposition. Our position is that there are a lot of prerequisites to digital business and being successful at it. A lot of the work that people have done over the years around process, I think, will pay off greatly for them. And there's a lot of new technologies that are out there. And so, one of the areas we hear quite a lot about, and you mentioned, is all around AI and artificial intelligence engagement with clients that are sharing information with you and what you've seen out there. What's the level that folks are starting to leverage that, in their digital efforts?
Well, what we're finding right now, this year is the year of AI. Last year was kind of like learning it. This year it's on fire. People are trying to apply it in a lot of different areas. We see it applied a lot in anything that goes after data. So if there's large groups of data that humans can't get through, we're finding machine learning and deep learning absolutely crucial for that kind of capability. And we're seeing even some new technologies come out of this paired up with AI, like graph databases, so you can ask a lot of questions. So that's being able to put data together loosely, so you can come at questions from a number of different directions and all connected to each other based on subject. And we're seeing a lot of NLP front ends to that kind of capability. We're seeing a number of NLP front ends being applied to legacy transaction environments that, they still have value to get those transactions done, and AI is applied there. So any area that, whether it's, sensing something that's happening in the IoT, AI is very handy there. Mm-hmm. If it's deciding what to do, can I get more data? AI is involved there. And when it comes to take action, it's like, which actions are, can I take, and what are the likely consequences of those actions? So we're seeing AI everywhere, and it's just going to be probably 3 to 6 months. We're going to see a lot of case studies pop on AI.
Yeah. Well, and part of our mission is we're looking to try to share those case studies and with folks through the website, because like you said, they are a little like hen's teeth these days, but hopefully they're a little bit more forthcoming as we get into the year. And the related question there, Jim, so are you finding that folks are also trying to leverage some of the AI value when it comes to customer engagement, customer journey, and is that one of the more popular applications of it?
Well, there's two parts of that journey. One is to map in a planning fashion. The other is to measure what's really going on. And we see the AI very, very active in the mining side, in process mining, in, looking at a timeline and finding patterns in timelines. So, yeah, AI's involved there as well, but it's more on the mining and audit side of it than it is the modeling and planning side of it.
All right, well, fair enough. And you were good enough to share a list of those top 10 mini journeys with our members. If you were to pick, maybe the top 2 or 3 ones that you're seeing folks go after, what would they be?
Well, if people are looking to save money, if it's all about, the dollars and cents or euros or whatever currency you're talking about, there's a lot in getting rid of paper, and it's easy plucking. The next thing is workflows, getting rid of redundant work, adding some discipline, and reusing and sharing workflows, and that's what I call mini process. There's a huge growth there, though I would be careful that you don't overgrow it and outstrip your architecture and have a problem with trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And then, of course, process, that's a real hot one. And low code right now in RPA, are really red hot. I would say white hot, as hot as AI is. And some people in RPA will tell you that RPA is a division of AI, and it is not. Combining it with AI makes it stronger, of course.
All right, great. And so before we let you go, Jim, so the book has been out for some time now. How has it been received, and are you getting normal correspondence from folks that are picking it up? How's it going?
Well, basically, like the typical book cycle, when it first comes out, you get a big bang, and after that, you get either it croaks or you get a steady feed, or it's really a New York bestseller. Well, it's not a New York bestseller. Never expected it to be, but we are getting a steady sales that are coming out of it, and the book seems to be doing well. It drives people to the blog. I get lots of conversations at Aragon around it. So, and we've given it out from time to time when we are dealing with some of our customer bases. But I'd like to encourage people, to read the book if they can. But it's probably the thing that I'd like to point you to, because in digital, one thing that's happening is we are speeding up. Everything's faster. Data's faster, events faster, IoT's making us faster. AI is helping us cope with the speed. But Aragon is really good at visual research. And what that is, and you can see a sample out on our website, of summarizing research notes in 2 to 3 minute chunks so that people can look at a video right away and say, no, that's not for me, or, oh, I can't wait to get my hands on that. And, oh, I learned something about this. I want to learn some more. And so, I got to get a little ad in here for Aragon. We are really proud papas of our visual research.
All right, well, good stuff, Jim. Well, listen, we appreciate you taking the time to come down and fill our members in on the current state of digital business and where things are headed. We know this is a moving target as it goes, and so we look forward to checking in with you from time to time. I had a chance to take a look at the offerings out on the Aragon website, and you guys are really focused in and writing on a lot of topics that are of interest to our members and areas that we're looking to also cover. So I think you might be a frequent offender on here, and so we hope to have you back over the coming months. Before we
together.
That's it, Jim. And before we run, I wanted to give folks just a quick overview of essentially what we are doing on the education and training front. And so, similar to the role that we've provided in the BPM space and the business architecture space, we have commissioned the development of a brand new training curriculum designed specifically for digital business leaders. And that curriculum has been put together, overseen by Andrew Spanny, who was the editorial director for me for BPM Institute, working alongside two gentlemen from Digital Fast Forward, Clay Richardson, who's a familiar name to a lot of our members and a former analyst with Forrester Research, and the co-founder of his company is Cornelius Pone, and those folks are building those curriculums over the winter and over the coming months, and you will find that outline on our website. And essentially what we've done is built an integrated set of courses that are taking you through the key areas that digital business leaders need to think about as they're starting and they're progressing and trying to advance their digital business journey and their digital transformation efforts. And so a lot of the topics that Jim has talked about here are things that we cover in Digital Business 101. And talking about business models is something that we dive into along with our design thinking course. Robotic process automation and AI and IoT is something that you'll find us covering in our RPA class. And of course, everything is about the customer. And so we've got a hands-on class with lots of exercises focused all around digital customer experience. And so those initial 4 courses make up a recommended core curriculum that we have. They can be taken individually or they can be taken as part of a complete learning path. And part of what we're seeing, Jim, is that, the individuals that are being charged with digital strategy and digital business really are starting to become more generalists. They need to know a lot of things about a lot of different topics and a lot of different areas. And so, to round out their understanding of the capabilities they're going to need, we've got recommended elective classes that talk about agile business analysis, some core skills like process modeling, analysis, and design, facilitation for digital business projects, and of course, change management, because you're talking about an awful lot of change being interjected into the organization, and strategies for doing that successfully, will always have a place at the table. And so folks can either take those classes I mentioned individually, or we've actually announced one of the first professional certificate programs for digital business out in the marketplace by completing all 8 of those courses. And that digital business certificate is part of a suite of professional certificate programs that we've been running for almost 20 years now. Folks have come, a lot of folks know us through our BPM programs. Our Agile Business Analysis program was introduced last year and is very quick out of the blocks and has really been helping people trying to transition to Agile from Waterfall. Our Operational Excellence courses, we have both an associate and a professional certificate there, as well as digital decisioning and business architecture. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, we always make our courses available in a host of different delivery methods because we've got members all over North America, all over the world. The on-demand version of these digital business courses will be out at Q3 of this year. But prior to that, folks will have an opportunity to attend those classes face-to-face and live online, as well as if you've got groups of folks at your organization that are looking to get up to speed on digital business. We do group training both in-house and online. And just a quick note on our schedule for the year, this whole string of digital business courses will be debuting in Chicago in April of this year. And then the first wave of live online classes will be starting with our spring session on May 9th. And so we are thrilled to be kicking off our digital business community, and that Jim was able to come help us put a stake in the ground as our starting point. And we look forward to hosting you on future webcasts and addressing more and more of these topics for our members as we move on. So Jim, thank you again for coming down and spending your time with us. And we wish you all the best throughout the year. We'll keep a track of your activities at Aragon, as well as with your studio.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye now.